Thank you, Terry, and thank you to VCU for this opportunity. KFI is located in Maine. We serve 3 basic markets. Bangor, which is a small city and has a robust economy, but most of our activity and our history occurs in a much more rural section of the state. Lincoln, Maine, which has an above average unemployment rate, and Millinocket, which Terry mentioned, has the highest unemployment rate in the state. In fact, is about double the state average. 2 years ago, Millinocket had an annual unemployment rate of 27% due to a mill closing, and then when it was reopened, it was at a much lower number of employees. So the challenges to help people with disabilities find employment exist everywhere, but they're particularly acute in areas of high unemployment. And just to give you a sense of KFI, our 5-year averages of number of people served, over the last 5 years we've averaged 69 people who we've served per year, and we found work for 26 of those people on an average year. Now, last fiscal year, which ended in June 30th, we served slightly fewer people, 59 people, but we still managed to find jobs for 26 of them. 13 on a full-time basis, averaging approximately 39 hours per week and earning $9.19 per hour, and 13 people at a part-time level, about 9 hours per week, earning $7.48 per hour. Now, KFI's approach is very much of a team effort, and Jeff and Lee, as well as Tom, who's back in Maine, work closely together in order to assist people finding work. We look at this webcast as a smorgasbord. Take what you want that feels good and seems like it would be helpful, discard those things that clearly don't help you, and maybe just hold on to some of the thoughts for some of the things that are of interest. A friend of mine began a job as a professional organizer a few years ago. Rosemary Chipio, she works in New Haven, Connecticut. It's been quite successful, is on TV, has a newspaper column. And the first time I'd seen Rose since she successfully began her job as a professional organizer, I asked her, what are the secrets of organization? What are the helpful things you can talk to me about that would help me to be a better organized person? And she started giving me some explanations, and about 10 seconds into that conversation stopped and said, you know, it's really about self-discipline. If you have self-discipline, then the things I have to say to you will help. Without self-discipline, my hints are not going to help you at all. I think that's the same idea. There's an underlying principle concerning assisting people with disabilities to find work. That underlying principle is relationships. You need to have relationships with the employer and with the job seeker. Some of the things that we say today will hopefully be helpful to you, but unless you have that strong relationship with the employer and with the job seeker, the helpful hints are not going to be that helpful. So I want to start by asking you, Jeff, how do you form a relationship with somebody, a new job seeker, someone you just don't know?
Well, Jim, we usually start at what's called a meet and greet, which is a very informal meeting with an individual who's interested in getting job placement services. At that time, we would typically not have any background information about the person other than the fact that a voc rehab counselor or a referral source has connected them with us to meet and to tell about our services and how we might be able to assist them. So in a very short period of time, we try to establish the beginning of a relationship by asking some questions of the individual to find out some of the work that they might have done in the past, or perhaps some of the school experiences that they've had, perhaps educational experiences or volunteer jobs. Oftentimes we are trying to, in essence, sell our services during this period, so we're also giving them an understanding of how we try and assist people who are working with us. If they, during the meet and greet or afterwards, select us as a provider, then usually we receive written information from the referral source that helps us with some background, and then we set up what we call an intake, where we meet with someone in a little more formal discussion of the things that the areas of work that they might be interested in, and how we might be able to assist them.
Now, the meet and greet is a very informal process.
Very informal. That's a time when we are not writing down a lot of information. We are trying to establish trust. We are trying to help people understand how we might be able to assist them in the process of seeking work, and how we may be able to bring them to that, the aspects that they can bring.
So you're not writing down, there's not a checklist, there's not a lot of information you're writing down at that point?
No, typically not.
Just to make people feel more at ease?
Right, right.
Okay, Lee, in terms of relationships with employers, I know that this is extremely important in terms of negotiating with employers. So what do you do? How do you start off with an employer you might not know?
Again, it's informal. I mean, you go in for your first meeting, and where we're talking about negotiating or restructuring, in order to do that clearly, you can't negotiate anything if you don't know what you're negotiating. Or you can't restructure a job if you don't know what that job is. So a lot of times on a first visit with an employer, generally I introduce myself, and I work in job placement. They usually welcome me in, generally ask to take a tour of the facility, if this is a good time, if it's an unannounced visit, realizing that they are busy. But most people who have a business are looking for employees, I should say, and a lot of them are willing to give you a tour of their facility, or they're proud of their facility and like to talk to you about it. One thing I try to never do is place someone on a first visit. That seems a little too pushy. Again, you don't have anything to negotiate or restructure. You don't have enough time with the employer. You don't want to be viewed as a used vacuum cleaner salesman, the person that when they see you coming, they go hide in their office and say, tell them I'm busy. You always want to be welcomed back for that second visit. Some of the questions that you try and get answered at this is clearly you make them aware of who you are, that you are literally looking for work for people.
Now, when you say looking for work with people, how much do you disclose about people with disabilities, or the degree of issues that people may bring at that first time?
At the first visit, I see no need to do that. I'm selling people's strengths, not their weaknesses. Okay. I am simply there to find out about the company, where they do post their hiring. When they're looking to hire someone, where do they post that? How often are they looking for clientele? Is it shift work? Is it day work? And once you take a tour of the facility, you can look at what people are actually doing. It gives you a chance to look at all the different types of jobs, from who's doing the groundkeeping, who's answering the telephones, who's doing the filing, or if it's a factory type work. There's usually, a lot of times we'll go in to look at one type of job, and mentally in our head we'll come out with 10 different jobs that someone in there is able to do. At that point, when I first started doing this 10 years ago, I remember paying a visit to a company that I'd never been to, and I walked through the door and I was on fire and ready to change the world. And I told the individual, the owner of the company, that I had the perfect person to work at their facility. And I remember him saying, "You do? Do you know what we make here?" And I looked like a fool. I looked not trustworthy at that point. I was trying to tell them I had the perfect individual before I knew what their needs were. So it's very important to build. You want to be seen as a good guy. You have a workforce. You have a workforce at hand, potentially, that they don't have to advertise for. We know a lot about the individuals that we can tell them either during an interview or before an interview, or we may not even make it to the interview, depending on what the individual's needs are.
Do you see jobs that the employer may not see, that he needs some help in certain areas?
Well, as Jeff and I, a large part of this, as far as negotiating or restructuring a job, is you may see, I mean, to give an example, We've been places where a bank teller has been working at the bank for many, many years. Their pay scale has gone up each year, so now they're making $10, $50, or $11 an hour, which is quite a bit of money for bank tellers, at least in Maine. And also during their daily routine, they may be in charge of doing some cleaning or shredding important documents at the end of their day, which may take several hours. We have spoken with people, managers of the business, which you have to be very careful that you're not coming in and tell them how to manage their business, that they're doing something wrong. But more or less, you're just bringing things to their attention that instead of paying this person $10 or $11, $12 an hour to do this, you may have someone that is willing to come in to do it at a cheaper rate because they haven't been there for a long period of time, getting their foot in the door, so to speak, maybe willing to work part-time. Again, we have individuals that they want to work 10 hours a week. Then again, we have individuals that want 40 hours a week with benefits. It all depends. We declare it a success if we meet the person's needs. If someone comes to us and after we're done with our intakes and we know what direction we're heading in, if 8 hours a week is a success to them, then it's a success to us. So sometimes you can go into a business and restructure a job that would save the employer money, save duties that this particular person really doesn't want to do anymore, and also they can get it done at a cheaper rate.
I want to ask you about job analysis and task analysis in a second, but can you just comment on, I know that some organizations, people we talk to, feel a great deal of pressure when they go into an employer to find an immediate placement. That's a lot of pressure, I think, from funders, from their own organization or whatever. Can you talk about your attitude with that versus establishing a relationship? Because a relationship implies to me taking a longer time.
It does take a longer time, and sometimes the people that are funding you do put pressure on you, as most of the people watching this probably have had. But the key to it is success. And I think what we have found is the better success comes from building a relationship with the employer, not trying to stuff something down their throat, being too pushy, being like you have to make a placement today. I make it very clear to people that, you know, we've presented at conferences before where one of my favorite sayings is, it's okay to walk away. It just doesn't fit. The job is, I mean, you found the perfect opening, they're willing to hire somebody, but you don't have anybody to fill that hole because it's not going to work. So taking your time with the employer, getting to build a trustful relationship with them, not trying to place someone on your first visit when they don't know you from a hole in the ground. Again, you can't negotiate or get into a restructuring on a first visit. You don't have enough information.
Right. So would you talk a little bit about job analysis? Because I think that's basically what you were talking about. So in the scheme of things, when you talk about job analysis, what are you looking for?
Well, I mean, we've all been to the trainings where they teach the job analysis and the lengthy sheets, and I'm not saying that those aren't valuable. In rural Maine, where we do job placement, we've found that our job analysis, if Jeff and I go into a business or Tom, is keeping your eyes and ears open, looking at what types of jobs are there without getting into a task analysis of each job during your first or second visit. That can come at a later time. A job analysis, we do it very informally. We look at what jobs are available, what people seem to be doing, how loud is the facility, how dirty, how dusty, is there shift work, kind of get an overall view of this facility or this company or this factory or this mom and pop store to find out what their needs are. And we kind of do an internal job analysis in our office and try and see who would match up to that type of environment and that type of work, and then take a closer look at what the job may be down the road.
It kind of gets back to developing the relationship with the individual as well, because if we have an understanding of the type of work, the type of environment, the type of support needs that someone might need going into a situation, then that helps us when we go into the workplace and can determine what might be available, what is it inside, is it outside, you know, is what type of environment is the particular set of tasks or job done in. And so then it gets to matching the environment and the job with the individual.
So going back to relationship building, you really need to know the person, and you really need to know the employer and the employer's immediate needs or maybe future needs.
Without knowing the employer's needs and without knowing the individual's needs, you can't negotiate anything. It's like negotiating something in a brown paper bag that you don't know what's in it. You can't do it effectively.
So, Jeff, in terms of restructuring, in terms of looking at jobs, Lee spoke a little bit about that in terms of from an employer and from the employment standpoint of finding a job for a person. We've also talked about restructuring jobs in our own organization in terms of job coaches and others that might be needed to assist people. Can you talk a little bit about KFI's approach for job coaches, first of all?
All right. Well, a job coach, as many of you folks know, is a support person that can assist someone on the job site with work that they need some help with. We do work with job coaches. We train job coaches, and we use them. However, typically we would be looking for what is considered in the field a natural support on the job site first. If there is someone that's available that is on staff at the workplace that is willing and able to assist the person and provide training and support, we have found that that is generally more effective, less stigmatizing, and it is an arrangement, a dynamic that helps the individual we are trying to support acclimate and become part of the job site that much more quickly, part of the whole milieu of the work site, so to speak. However, we do use job coaches. Many times people need a level of support that is not available directly at the employment site, and part of the problem that we have had in the past is that because though we keep a small number of job coaches on staff, it may be a number of months between times that individuals are not working because we have provided supports in another way to an individual. So part of the difficulty that we have had is maintaining qualified job coaches.
Well, I just want to clarify that job coaches within KFI are not full-time regular employees.
That's right. They're more contracted employees. They receive an hourly rate.
And when there's not a need for the job coach, then they don't have a
work.
job.
That's right. And part of the difficulty that we've had is that there's a length of time oftentimes between those times when job coaches work. To deal with that, we have established an opportunity and also a requirement for some of the community advocate staff that KFI uses to become job coaches and to train and to get an understanding of what's expected, so that as part of their job they may be called upon for a short period to do some job coaching.
I just want to clarify that community advocates are people who are supporting individuals who are known to KFI and receive services that are not necessarily vocational. We do not run groups, we do not have a day program as such, but we support people to be in the community. So advocates are individuals who support people in a non-vocational sense, but when the need arises, they become job coaches.
They may step in for a short period, yes.
Okay. And otherwise, we have job coaches on a contractual or temporary employee basis. Okay. Lee, does that present difficulties when you go into an employer and you don't know if you have a job coach available for somebody?
Well, sometimes it can and does. A lot of times, I'm going to say upwards of 75% of the placements that we've gotten in the last year have been without a job coach, been with an in-house support. Now, again, we just spoke at a conference not too long ago.
Yes.
We were viewed as anti-job coach, which we're not. We agree that there are times that is the only way it is going to work. Generally, I mean, it can be to assist someone to learn the job on the site. It can be due to behaviors. We get to the stocking the mustard on the shelf is the problem, or smashing the mustard on the floor is going to be the problem. Now, that may sound funny, and I don't mean it to, but that is the situation. Job coaches are needed for different situations. We have found, which it differs, I guess, from agency to agency, that if someone is willing to take on the role, and we can negotiate that, getting back to the negotiating, if we can negotiate someone in-house willing to be the shining star, the mentor that will take the bull by the horns and assist in-house, that generally works better for us. With the understanding that we have a safety net in place. If it doesn't go well, we know what we're going to do. And also with the understanding that we can inject a job coach maybe a day or two down the road if it doesn't go well. We can add a job coach rather than take one away.
So it's been our experience, it's easier in that sense to add somebody if it's not working out well, rather than to take one away, as you said.
In certain circumstances, if you have it all set up and you've done your homework and you know the employer and you know the individual and you have the understanding that let's try this without a job coach, John is going to watch Bob. It's kind of like an in-house job coach. John already works here. John knows the job. John won't make Bob stand out like he needs someone with him. If you can pull that off with all the supports in place and you've done all your homework, that generally for us works better. Now, it doesn't work all the time, and sometimes we know we need a job coach, period.
And that gets back to the relationship building as well, because during that time we would help the individual who wants to do the job there become familiar with the job ahead of time. They may job shadow the position. They might get an opportunity to meet with the individual that is going to be assisting them before the day that they're actually going to be starting work. We want to relieve any anxiety on both the individual's part as well as the mentor or on-site support person's behalf, so that they are more comfortable with each other and they can, in essence, hit the ground running when the individual starts.
Well, I know both of you have been doing this a long time, so I know probably the answer to this is already, but have you looked at it, worked with the person, met the individual, and in your mind said, boy, this person's definitely going to need a job coach, and you were very wrong, that the company has either taken on the responsibility immediately or the job coach was there very briefly?
I've found
Yes.
I've found that it's very difficult to determine the actual level of support that someone is going to need in any given instance before you know what the job is, what their reaction to the job is going to be, and what supports may be available at that job site. We've underestimated people frequently.
Yes.
And as far as restructuring, it's hard to restructure something that no one's had a chance to try yet, unless you're restructuring a piece of the job where someone isn't able to lift 20 pounds, and that is part or a piece of this particular job. There's no sense in starting a job with a job coach if the job coach has to perform a duty on that job that this person will never be able to do on their own. You have to ask yourself, is this a good job match? Yes, we can pull this off, and we have long-term funding, so the job coach can be there for a long, long time with John, but there's pieces of this job that they're not willing to carve out that John just physically cannot do. Sometimes, again, it's okay to walk away. That may not be the best job match.
So it sounds as if this really does go back to that relationship and the trusting relationship with an employer, that you are in some ways experimenting because, as you were saying, Jeff, we vastly underestimate people's abilities. Going to an employer and kind of experimenting to say, we don't think this person needs a job coach. In our minds, we can get in there quickly to provide a job coach, but does the employer really, the employer really needs to trust you in order to let that happen?
It all comes down to trust. Never make promises that you can't keep. The worst thing that can happen to your agency is your agency gets fired. That's the ultimate, the worst thing. You've probably ruined chances for many people behind this individual because they didn't get done. KFI was fired.
Okay, so you're talking about that they never want to see you in this building again because...
When you come, they just say, thank you, I don't have anything, with a smile. And you know that they do, but they don't want to talk with you anymore.
By providing as accurate a job match as we can to fulfill the needs of the individual we're working on behalf of, as well as the employer, we develop a relationship to work from in the future potentially if we are going to be negotiating a restructuring situation where someone may not be able to do all of the essential job tasks, or I should say, may be able to do the essential job tasks, but not some of the marginal tasks. And at that point, then if we are requesting, for example, that someone complete everything that they're expected to do with the exception of a particular task, it puts us in better standing with someone. We have, at that point, established that we are doing our best to connect a potential worker for this company.
Job matching, we haven't talked too much about that. I know that you both consider that to be a very important aspect, a key in some ways. So, I mean, it seems like a giant jigsaw puzzle. How do you get to know the person well enough to know what the person's skills are, to the employer, to know what they want, to make a good job match? I mean, what is that process?
Someone in this world has met this person before your meet and greet with the first time you've met them. You try and find out what they've done in the past, if they have worked. If they haven't worked, did they attend a school? Do they have teachers? Do they have friends or family that could speak on their behalf or assist them to let us know what they really like or what they really don't like? And then basically, I always said if I was up at the big podium, I'd say you ask the person what they want to do and then you go find it, thank you, good night. Try and find out what interests somebody and why. We tell the story about the gentleman that wanted to be a scientist, never worked in his life, probably 20 years old. And when we got to what it takes to be a scientist and the education, it was very obvious, okay, I guess I'm not going to be a scientist, but why did you want to be a scientist? It was the outfit, it was the white jacket that he wanted most of all, because he watched Bill Nye the Science Guy. He got a job at Hannaford Brothers, a large grocery store chain, and worked in the deli with a white coat, and he was happy. He was a scientist. He was just slicing bologna instead of but it's that type of thing is, why does someone want to do something? And then there's a lot of jobs that may reflect on why they want to do something that may not be exactly what they think they want to do, because they've had no experience. Yeah. And it is a giant puzzle. It is a giant puzzle. And it's getting to know the people that know them better than you and listening.
So it seems to me one of the great challenges, Jeff, would be to have somebody who was living a pretty isolated, sheltered life, maybe was in special education in high school, maybe didn't have a lot of family responsibilities, and suddenly they're on your doorsteps at age 20, not having a lot of life experience. And so how do you go figure out what a person might want to do?
And perhaps not many life experiences, or perhaps not many responsibilities either. And at that point, what we're trying to do, as Lee said, is to gather as much information from the individuals that may know more about this person, as much information from the person themselves, about what they like and what they don't like, how they enjoy their time, maybe some of the things that they're frightened of, some of the things that have hurt them in the past or have prevented them from having opportunities. And we oftentimes will try to arrange job shadowing experiences where someone will get a chance to go out into the community and take a look at various different jobs in a number of different environments. We receive many of our referrals through the Department of Vocational Rehabilitation, and oftentimes a VR counselor will allow us time to assist someone, particularly with very little job actual experience, to go on out and do some job shadowing, which is real helpful.
Well, one of the things that we've not talked about is job carving. And a lot of times I think the job restructuring and job carving become synonymous. Both of you, what have your experiences been with job carving? Does it work? I mean,
Well,
I haven't heard you talk about it.
Well, job carving does work, and sometimes it's an essential part of the job. Getting back to what Jeff was saying as far as job shadowing, if you've got the individual who's going to be doing the job, I mean, they're in charge. They're the ones that will say, yes, I'd like to try this, or no, I don't. Sometimes they can be the ones that say, I love everything about this, but I don't like that. Mm-hmm. So as far as restructuring, I'm not restructuring it to what I feel their needs are. I may be restructuring it what they're telling me they want or like and don't like. Like Jeff said, as far as job carving, you have to be careful, because there are essential parts of the job and there are the marginal parts of the job. Sometimes the essential parts of the job, as I said earlier, if they can't do what is posted as the essential basis of this job, and then sometimes it's underlying, and also we want you to do this and this and this. Sometimes you can carve out some of those underlying pieces that maybe can be sent to other departments or other places. But if the main job is posted as a cashier, but also you have to make pizzas and fill the Coke cooler, well, if you can't do the cashier job, then don't attempt to go carve it, because then you're totally expecting the employer to totally change the position. And until you have a really good relationship with someone, you shouldn't make that attempt. That generally doesn't work. But changing pieces of it, yeah, that's in the game.
Sometimes positions go from full-time to part-time during those instances too, where an employer might be looking for a full-time person, and we might be able to offer someone who has just the right skills and background to provide some of those duties, to perform some of those duties, but might not be able to close up, for example, or maybe do some of the ordering, or in a retail situation.
It's always seemed to me that job carving really speaks to kind of a hierarchy, a large place where there are multiple people doing the job, and you can carve out bits and pieces of it. You're working with much smaller employers, and that would present, I think, its own series of issues about carving.
Yeah, we're working.
You got people who need to do everything.
Right. I mean, we do get that a lot. We work with a lot of the mom and pop stores, so to speak, where help wanted sign in the window. You go in, and we need someone to open, close, run the cash register, cash up, make the sandwiches at lunch, and also fill the coolers and do the inventory. And you can, depending on the relationship you have, try and restructure or carve certain, I have someone that's willing to do this and this and this for this, and they're willing to work nights and weekends because they told us they wanted to work nights and weekends. Would that benefit you? I mean, sometimes what ends up happening is, we're trying to do the restructuring, then the business is trying to do the negotiating. So sometimes it all works that way. Where we have someone and they'll say, well, I'll tell you what, I could do that if they can work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday every week. And then you go back and say, you can have this job if you want to work the weekends. It's a game. It is a puzzle.
So there's no playbook
No.
where you go in, you do A, B, C, you talk about the ADA, you talk about employers' responsibilities, all those kinds of things. That's not the approach you would take.
No, I've had people at different meetings, conferences, whatever you'd like to call it, say, so what is your spiel? What makes you folks successful? Tell me what you say. Well, it all depends. I mean, sometimes well, I shouldn't say that. I almost never wear a tie. Very casual, but you have to know whether or not, you got your very professional face on that day. It all depends who you're talking with, or sometimes it's over a cup of coffee and someone has their feet up on the desk. Every day you're negotiating, restructuring. It's never the same way twice. That's one thing I like about the job. But you have to read the situation, the time of day that you're there, how busy someone is when you get there, read what type of mood they're in, how much time they tell you they've got for you, and try and read that they don't even want to be there for the time they're telling you they can be there. Know when to leave and say, thank you, I can see this isn't a good time, I'll be back. Don't wear out your welcome. Don't be too pushy. Don't try and negotiate or restructure something that you don't know what you're talking about, the job or the individual, or it just doesn't work.
So it sounds like, to some degree, the respect that we all understand we need to have for people we support. We don't often talk about this respect that we need to have for employers, but it sounds like that's exactly where you start, with the respect for the employer, what the employer can give you on that particular day, time, energy, whatever.
Without the employer, you have nothing.
Right, and if we are doing our best to make a good job match between the employer and the individual we're serving, then we're doing both individuals a service.
Correct. It gets to the point where we've had many times, once you get a trusting relationship and they realize you are a place that has people that want to work.
A resource.
They don't like hiring people. They don't like going through a stack of applications and doing the interviews. If you got someone that they think, and you got the trust, many times people have called and said, hey Lee, got someone that we need for the second shift. This is the job. Do you have anybody on your caseload right now that's looking for that type of work that we can, make this work? And for you to say, gee, Joe, thank you for calling me. I just looked at my list, and right now I don't have anybody that's interested in doing that type of work. I wish I did, because we both win, but I don't, so I'm not going to send someone over there that doesn't want to do that, or that I know can't perform those duties. And they thank you for that.
I want to go back earlier, Lee. You mentioned a safety net. And I think this gets into the relationship that you develop with an employer and maintaining that relationship. I believe I've been there when you can't make meetings. You've got to get on the emergency uniform and go out to an employer and handle a situation. Does that happen?
Oh, it
Does
happens.
it happen often?
It happens. It happens. Yes. As far as often, well, not as often as you think. If you've done your homework and it's a good job match and you have an understanding employer that this might go bad, with the understanding that if it does, it will be temporary, because we can have a support person there with them, and you've got an on-site support person there. I mean, basically, you've got to have phone numbers. You got to be waiting by the bat phone. Even if someone goes to work at 8 o'clock, their first day, and you say, this morning I'm going to spend this in the office. And if I don't get a phone call, I'm going to do my normal work, maybe look for, do other things in the office. And in 2 or 3 hours, you can go over and either make a phone call or check in. And if you haven't heard, it's really nice when it goes very smoothly without anybody but natural supports on site.
And oftentimes we're going to do our best to feature someone's strengths and competencies, and that may be their ability to do tasks, it may be their ability to be there regularly, to be dependable and reliable and honest and friendly and to fit in. We want to show someone's competency, so that in the event that there are difficult times, or if the individual is late on a day or has some behavior problems, that they have had the opportunity to show all that they can offer this employer. I remember years ago in a Mark Gold training, Mark Gold talked about deviancy versus competency, and that the more competent someone is, then the more deviance an employer will put up with, in essence. And Lee and I have seen this over and over and over again, that if we can assist people in showing what they can, in essence, bring to the table, and it allows them the more opportunity to fit in and to become a valuable member, to, in essence, buffer against those times that they might need a little more help.
Everybody has a bad day now and then. It just happens. And if you educate people, educate coworkers, educate the employer that, you know, things may go smooth for a week and there may be a bad day. We all have bad days where either we don't talk to someone, we're a little snappy, we didn't get enough sleep, we just don't feel like working that particular day. And a lot of times what Jeff and I has found is once someone is there for 2 or 3 days, then you can really get into some serious restructuring and negotiating, because you don't know how someone's going to react to the atmosphere, the time of day, what truly is the job after someone's been there 3 or 4 hours. Are they getting tired? There's a lot of aspects to negotiating and restructuring. You can only do so much before the first day on the job. And after the first, second, or third day, then you can really fine-tune the restructuring and negotiating. And by then, hopefully the employer really likes what they see, and they're a lot more willing to make a few changes now that the nervousness is gone.
So they're a little invested in the individual.
Exactly. And the individual is invested in the business. It goes both ways.
So you're really talking about the opposite of the old place and run philosophy, because you, as part of the negotiating, as part of the ongoing negotiating and possibly restructuring, are staying in close contact with the employers.
If you place and run, you may as well keep running. You're not going to be welcome back.
Yeah, never come back.
And again, in a rural Maine setting where we live, we know a lot of the people. And even after it's a success, we follow up with them for 3 months per voc rehab possibly. And we say, everyone did a great job. We have an exit meeting. They're still working. Employers will call us 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the road and say, gee, you know, Mary's had a bad day today. I think she really would like to speak with you. We don't say, well, her case is closed with us, because you can't do that.
You can't afford to do that.
You can't afford to do that. Plus, you want Mary to be a success. I mean, it's twofold here. You don't want to just abandon Mary, but you want to jump when the employer has your needs. That way, they're going to welcome you back time after time. Sometimes your caseload gets to be like, you know, gee, I worked with Bill, but that was 3 years ago. Well, we need your help. Well, okay. And then if it looks like it's something that's going to be ongoing, mention that to the voc rehab counselor. Sometimes they'll reopen the case for ongoing supports. And
you have the same situation, I think, with individuals. Once you start forming the relationship, if they're working or doing other things, people are dropping in the office just to check in and to chat with you, tell them about your life. Because I've been there where...
And that can be very gratifying.
Yeah.
We like to remain in contact with folks, and we're in a pretty, as you know, we're in a pretty central, accessible area, so yeah, we get a lot of visitors.
And again, what works for Jeff and I in KFI, you got to remember where we are and who we're working with for people and employers. And it may be different from what some of the folks are watching today. I mean, people are probably out there going, well, we couldn't do that with the people I work with. They work with a whole different batch of people than we work with. Well, we all work with people. We all work with people with different needs at different times. And getting to know the person and getting to know the employer's needs, you can't do any negotiating or restructuring or anything until you do your homework first.
It sounds like a very complicated, huge layer cake where everything feeds into something else. The relationship, with the employee, potential employee, or the employee, the employer, the trusting relationship with the individuals, looking at the assets. It's all bits and pieces of this giant layer cake, which lends itself oftentimes to negotiating on behalf of the individual and also restructuring when and if that's necessary. But all the pieces are connected. It's all one big cloth.
If you pluck one piece out of it, it can crumble. It can all crumble, no matter how much homework you've done. If there's a piece that's just you've overlooked a key piece for some reason, then it can all crumble.
Jeff, in terms of I asked Lee a little bit ago about the safety net in terms of employers, and kind of getting the emergency outfit on the Batmobile and all bat phone. What about for individuals? Do you have a similar experience with individuals who are crashing and burning for whatever reason?
It happens. Yep. Sometimes people find themselves in a situation where because of the work demands or because of the demands at a time when their personal life is hard, people don't always succeed. We try and provide the level of support that people need in order to succeed. KFI's philosophy, as you know, is to really provide the minimal level of support that somebody needs, to be as committed and as independent as they can. But we do remain in contact with people after they're, at various frequencies. After they've been placed, we typically receive funding from referral sources to remain in contact with someone actively for up to 3 months.
So when these emergencies occur, do you go in as a SWAT team where if you're dealing with an individual's issues, you're also dealing with the employer not having an employee to handle those issues, so you're both having to handle different sides of the same problem?
It all depends where we are that particular day. If I'm in one town and Jeff's there, again, it's the bat phone. You get there as soon as you can. I'm on my way. Or, that's a case-by-case basis. And hopefully, if the negotiating and the restructuring and the rapport you have with everyone went well and the job match is excellent, that's at a minimum.
It's real important for the individuals who are trying to learn the job or who are the employee. It's very important for them to have an understanding of what they can do to access help. In contacting us, in letting the employer know if they are such that they are unable to go to work a particular day, we'd want to know about it. And if we could find out how we might be able to help. If they were genuinely ill or sick, then everyone has a sick time, a sick day every once in a while. But we try and provide them with a better understanding of what their choices and how these behaviors might be perceived, and but in a way that leaves them an opportunity for a choice.
Now, one of the things we haven't talked about in terms of negotiation with employers is what type of incentives there might be available for employers, the toolbox that you can bring to the table. And I realize it may be different in different states and different areas, but generally, are there some incentives that you can bring to employers?
Yeah, I think the tax credit is pretty much a blanket. I think that's across the United States, I'm not sure. Where if someone is associated with voc rehab and so on, they get a tax credit if someone is employed for a certain length of time. But also, generally, we work with a lot of voc rehab clients where certain times they'll pay for a training wage, or they do offset job coaching costs for someone that may want to get their foot in the door, where instead of them paying to train someone out of a stack of applications, well, for 40 hours, we'll either VR will pay them or we'll pay them directly and VR will reimburse us. It all depends how we set it up. But sometimes we can offer training wages, and again, they have a safety net. Part of it is us. So we want to make this work. And there's no guarantees with anybody that they hire. So, and again, when we talk about negotiating stage, that's when we're talking about a job coach. If we feel that the employer just doesn't have anybody on site or that he's just not into it, that they want a job coach, we don't beat that to death. we'll find a job coach. But if we think it would all work without one, and everybody's willing to say, yeah, let's give it a go, we'll go that way every time first.
Well, I think that our time is up. I really appreciate the opportunity. Again, thank VCU for the opportunity to participate in this webcast. I want to remind you that we are available and to ask questions in the chat room, and we will try our best to answer them. So thank you very much for tuning in.